So you've got to be inspired. You've got to be inspired because I've said it before. Every seven-figure agent was not once a seven-figure agent. So I think the first thing is, where does the magic happen? Hi everyone, I've got with me someone famous, not for cricket, Michael Clarke, but for real estate. About 3-4 weeks ago we caught up when I was visiting Manly, and this guy's just written $1 million in 3 months. Is that right? 3 million? Yeah, 3 months, $1 million. Michael, welcome firstly.
Hello.
Okay, so for the viewers out there, a lot of them around Australia and Sydney, can I just get a brief background on how long you've been in real estate and where you came from?
Yep. Okay, so started in real estate in 2005. My background prior to real estate, I grew up in the country from Orange, family of 7 kids. So,
wow.
Yeah, you learn to negotiate when you're a family of 7 kids, because if you don't negotiate well, you don't eat.
Yeah.
So that was fun. Just a country kid. Went to university in Bathurst and studied advertising, and that was great. I really enjoyed it, but Mum and Dad couldn't afford to keep me on campus, so I sold encyclopedias by night and studied by day. So that's how I put myself through uni.
Wow.
Yeah.
So selling door to door?
It was mostly it was mostly by appointment, but during the evenings, yeah, door to door.
Okay, so you did full-time uni?
Yep, and stayed on campus. Yep.
And stayed on campus, paid for it more or less out of being a salesperson. Was that encyclopedia a useful training ground?
Oh heck yeah, because it was like I was learning about marketing and advertising during the day, and then learning about sales in the evening. And that I earned enough money to do that, or by doing that, to stay on campus and had a ball of the time. It was brilliant.
Okay, so you finished uni. What did you do next?
So I was fortunate. I got a scholarship over to New York, an agency called BBDO. So I was on the Mars account with Snickers and M&Ms, and I was a 20-year-old kid at the time, so I was in Disneyland. It was great to be over there and get that experience. And then I won another scholarship when I got back and worked for a company over in Piedmont. And I was enjoying it, but I wasn't passionate about it. And my then girlfriend, who is now my wife, said to me, she threw a real estate book across the table to me one evening, and she said, "Look, you should do that, you'd be brilliant at it." And I'd never considered it in my whole life that I'd do anything.
I mean, you sound like, I tell you, I interview a lot of people, but you sound like you're pretty smart. You went to uni, you've gone off, you pick up a gig selected to be part of a program in New York.
Yeah,
in the cutting field of advertising, so a lot of people would have thought, oh, real estate agent, that's not as glamorous, but
yeah, it's interesting, and that was I had a lot of people at the time in my social sphere. I mean, all my best mates were like, go for your life, mate, whatever you want to do. But a lot of people were, particularly when I had the CV that I won an international scholarship overseas and then another scholarship back here. The CV looked good, right, but I wasn't enjoying it, and so I got this book from Cherie thrown across the table to me, and she said, "Look, you'd love that," because the part of advertising that I liked, or the idea of it, was the pitching to the business.
Right.
And I wasn't going to be able to do that for another 5 or 10 years. And so I actually read the book in about 3 days, and I thought to myself, wow, this is amazing. I can't believe that there's an industry like this, because up until that point in time, I just saw real estate like I guess most others see the stereotypical real estate salesperson. Nice suit and maybe nice car, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And so interviewed at several different agencies, but I earmarked a particular brand that I wanted to work with, and turned up there, got the job, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Okay, so you've been in real estate how long now?
About 8 years.
Okay, were you good right from the outset?
Oh, I went backwards. I laugh with Cherie now. I didn't laugh at the time. I remember, so I went from a job that I thought was paying fairly well back then, and that was about $90,000.
Yeah.
And went on to a debit credit thing for $34,000 a year,
yeah,
all of which I had to pay back. And I remember I got up to about $20,000 in the negative, and Cherie, who at that stage was my fiance, and she said, "How are we going?" And I said, "Backwards, but not fast." And I'll never forget, she burst into tears. I was trying to soften the blow, but yeah, backwards but not fast. So first.
Yeah. So this is like 8 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're engaged, or you're engaged, and you've just told Cherie that in reality you owe the boss money.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember rock bottom very, very clearly. So I got into the business in 2005, and I remember the 20th of July 2006. I pulled into the petrol station. I didn't have any money to pay for the petrol, so I had to call Dad back in Orange to transfer some money across so I could put petrol in the tank. And I only told Cherie about that years later. But so for me at the time, saying we're going backwards but not fast, that was actually a hell of a lot better than the way that I actually felt like I was going. So
wow, I mean, that, guys and girls, if you're watching this now and you've ever needed to sort of feel like, you know, is there light at the end of the tunnel? 8 years ago, behind, you know, 34 grand take home pay and having to pay back because you're behind, and in the last few months, 3 months, you wrote $1 million. I mean, by the sounds of it, you're going to be on track to write 2 mil in GCI. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
I should be well above that. I'm above that already.
Above that already, okay. So you've got to be inspired. You've got to be inspired because I've said it before, every seven-figure agent was not once a seven-figure agent. So I think the first thing is, where does the magic happen, Michael? So in the last 8 years, how has this thing happened? Explain.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing that I learned from that very first book that I read was that anything that you really want to do has been done by somebody in the past, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I know that's a massive cliche, but in advertising, a lot of the people who had done really well had mentors and people who had done really well as well.
Right.
And so they'd go off and do that. And then when I was reading about real estate, what became increasingly clear to me was that two things. The first was that the people who were doing amazing figures were doing something that they were oftentimes very, very keen to pass on. They were very generous with their time, and all you had to do was pester them enough and they'd catch up with you.
Did you pester people?
Hell yeah. Well, I went all over. I remember I found a bloke who was writing really good business within the organisation that I was in, and I pestered him for 6 months to catch up with me. And I'd drive over to the inner west, and the deal was I'd get there at 6:45 on a Friday morning with a coffee for him, and we'd catch up and do scripts and dialogues, role playing and training and things like that until 9 o'clock every Friday morning.
Wow.
So that was something that supercharged me, because I was learning from somebody who at that stage was already writing over $1 million, and that had a massive impact. And then, you know, other people as well. So everybody.
Okay, so you're saying one of the ways that you can accelerate your learning if you're hungry is to find mentors or find other people that are successful, and you may be pleasantly surprised that they're going to be generous with their time.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing about it is that I found one of the other things was that in the industry, the people who were going very, very well, almost all of them had also gone very badly at one point in time, and they'd caught up with somebody else who'd been very, very generous with their time as well. So I think that if you're looking to go well in the industry, you'd be a galah if you didn't try and catch up with some of the people around there that were doing great business, because you don't have to learn all the hard lessons. You can leverage from what they've done.
Well, you're being very generous on steroids today. There's 16,000 people on my list. Now, the open rate's about 35, 37%, depending. With you, I reckon it's going to be like closer to 40%. Can I ask you, what are some of those learnings, Michael, that you've picked up that successful agents do, you know?
Work your bum off.
Right.
Absolutely work your ring off. There's no...
You work hard?
Well, I guess that's for others to judge, but, you know, I work 6 days a week, and normally get to the office or an appointment or something like that prior to 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm not part of the 5 a.m. club. I can't promise to be that, but, you know, I'm always up some time around 6.
Yeah.
And normally get home sometime between 7 and 9 o'clock in the evening after I do the...
How many days a week do you work?
6.
6?
Yeah.
What's your current team look like in terms, like, you're the owner of Clarke and Hummel.
Yep.
Cherie Hummel's your wife.
Yep.
Partner. You're Michael Clarke. You're the Clarke part of the business.
Mm-hmm.
A great brand. It's so for our viewers out there that don't know, this business was formed about a year ago.
Beginning of 2012.
Beginning of 2012. So we're now coming up to close to 18 months.
Yeah. Well, just on 2 years. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a good thing in the sense that you've got this business. You're controlling your destiny, but you are a main producer in that business. So you are on the tools, you work with buyers and sellers, and you are the main producer of sales revenue in that business.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, and indeed until until we just hired a couple of salespeople, myself and Cherie were the only ones, and so we had and Cherie is a very her background is an architect, and so it's funny because she pushed me into the business, and then 4 years after that I convinced her to ditch architecture and come and join me.
Right.
And so she's very capable of doing the listing and selling as well, but her primary focus is to keep me out there listing, selling and negotiating, and she runs the back end.
Okay, so she's like your PA?
Oh God, no, she's like my boss.
She's like your boss, okay.
No, I'm lucky to get the Clarke and bidding, Clarke and number one. No, Cherie's more like the chief financial officer of the actual business. She's, and once again, she's very capable of.
She'll be smart. I mean, she's an architect.
Oh yeah, mate. She got ducks at a school, and she's the brains of the outfit.
Right. Okay. So you have got an assistant that works for you?
Yeah. So up until recently, so Cherie was dealing with all the buyers and things like that to help me, right? And also doing some listing and selling of her own. But it was basically myself, Cherie, and then we had a CSM as well.
Okay. Let me ask you the question of, one of the things that viewers always ask me is how do they get into more listing presentations? What are the tips you can give? How can you get into more doors? I mean, hard work is important, so what we're saying is that is like not an optional bit, that's the mandatory.
Yep.
Yeah.
They'd be surprised how many people don't think that that's that important. They feel like they can rock up at 8:30 in the morning and leave at 5:30 and think that they'll be successful. It's phenomenal.
So essentially what you're saying is, and I know because the day I was there with you, I could see that your dollar productive focus and time is a precious commodity to you, and I can see that the way that you operate, time is important to you. Can I ask, what do you spend your time doing in the? Is your week got a pattern?
Oh, absolutely. I've got an ideal week, and I've got. That's one of the things that that I learned very early on and we were talking about it before, and that is that real estate's one of those businesses where you can be massively busy the entire day and completely unproductive at the same time.
Right.
And so whether you look at something like Dr. Fred Gross, who talks very much about the ideal weeks and things like that, or whether you look at somebody like Bob Boland, who talks about 5 qualified face-to-face appointments every day. What I learned was that every single thing that I was doing needed to be tailored towards getting in front of somebody that was qualified, and whether that was prospecting. So I'd be lying if I said I've done a lot of prospecting over the past 6 months, because I haven't, because the business has just been spinning. And I used to hear that when I was first starting up, these people who would get phone-ins, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, what the hell is a phone-in? All my business in the first 5 years, it was all completely proactively generated.
So do you know when has that time happened where it appears the call-ins, and you're running like an attraction business model now, where people call you because they want Michael Clarke?
Yep.
At what point has that happened?
So I've been doing it 8 years. It started to happen about 12 months ago.
Okay. Before the 12 months, what were the sort of things that you would be doing more and more of?
Religiously prospect.
What's prospecting mean to you?
The first thing is every open for inspection. I know 4 out of 10 of those people are either going to be selling immediately or selling at some stage in the near future. So make sure that I have world-class open homes. Try and actually interact with everybody that comes through. Try and be positive to everyone.
What do you reckon one of your separation points, because you're a really good lister, you've got a good conversion rate, and you're exceptional for the amount of people in your business and how long it's been going. You are a marketing-based business, and your advertising background maybe helps here, but you're good at getting vendor-paid marketing and helping vendors design good campaigns. Explain your separations on how you get listings versus competitors, and how you outline the marketing proposition to a vendor.
Okay, so as far as the separation in listing presentations, I think the first thing is there needs to be a bit of an intensity at the listing.
Right.
Like, I'm not one of those people. You can never win 10 listings out of 10.
Right.
And I don't naturally click with people who are massively laid back.
Right.
From my perspective, though, I believe that the sale of any real estate, any piece of real estate is much more involved than just sticking a signboard in out the front and crossing your fingers and hoping to God. So I talk a tremendous amount about the strategy.
Right.
What is the best way to be able to maximise your sale price? I heard somebody say in the first week of my real estate career that as the agent, it's not your job to sell the property, because any bum can sell their own property if they discount it by 20%.
Yeah.
It's your job as the agent to maximise the sale price. And once again, that's now a cliche, but what I really like to talk about with my vendors is how is it that we're going to be able to maximise the impact? How is it that we're going to be able to get you that extra 10%?
So the conversation you have is not about property sale, it's about house price maximisation.
Yeah, absolutely right. And, right. That's where the VPA thing comes in.
Right.
You know?
Okay, when you outline VPA, is there a kind of approach that you do? Do you use any visuals? Do you use the current, I know you use the Manly Daily, do you actually show the product? How do you?
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. More often than not I don't, because at the end of the day, sometimes I will have a vendor that wants to have a look at the way an ad looks, but I think what I'm after is not their buy-in that our ads look pretty or that we're going to take this photo or that photo. What I want is their buy-in that the more competition that we get for their property, the more it's going to sell for.
Right.
Because on the one hand, that property is only worth what someone's prepared to pay. But on the other hand, if you nail it, you can influence somebody's perception of the value. And the biggest thing that we've got to be able to influence their perception of the value is how much competition there is.
Right.
It's all about competition.
Okay, so what you're saying is part of your job is not just to locate a buyer, but to change the perceived value of the home by, the way you position the property in the marketplace.
Absolutely. It's, it's one of the most important things I learned in advertising, and that is that you've got to make sure that not only are you branding whatever it is that you're selling correctly, but there's a perception created around every touch point that people have in relation to the marketing. And so you can't make somebody like a house if they don't like it, right? So there's a ground zero where they'll walk in and they'll either decide whether they like the house or whether they won't. So the ones that don't like it, well, they're irrelevant. But the people that do like it, those are the ones that are heavily influenced by whether or not there are other people around that also like it, and that's the social proof thing. Right. And so if we can influence the number of other people that are also walking around, also genuinely interested in the property, all nodding together collectively, well, that's a great way of us being able to maximise the sale price. We all want what we can't have.
Okay, I love that term, social proof. I like it the way that you articulate things in a logical, evidence-based way, and your persona, you come across as someone, when you say intensity, you come across someone that is pretty clear, straight shooting, has got a strong view about something, not wishy-washy.
I speak massively quickly.
Is that
that's just who I am.
That's who you are.
Yeah, I used to try and slow down. I had to leave Orange. They couldn't understand me.
Wow. Too fast for the people in Orange is near Bathurst, right?
Yes.
Or sort of.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. I went to uni in Bathurst, so yeah, lived in Orange.
Okay, so Orange and Bathurst. So let me ask you the question of having structure, having ideal weeks. Is that natural to you?
No, hell no. No, Cherie did all that for me. She basically
organised. Are you less, as a person, are you less structured? You're more...
Now I'm very proud to say I'm very organised. I'm super organised.
Right.
About 8 years ago I wasn't. So that's the other interesting thing that I learned in real estate, and that is that I think they call it the Peter principle or the Anderson, whatever it is, some principle that talks about each and every person rises to his or her own level of incompetency, at which point they remain, unless they change. Right, and so it's interesting because in real estate, you can get to a certain level, and you can, whether that's selling 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 properties a month. Let's call it 4 properties a month.
Yeah.
And I could relatively comfortably sell 4 properties a month, but I couldn't handle selling any more than that until I got organised.
Right.
And then I got to 6 or 7 properties a month, and then I couldn't actually handle the volume of any more while still making sure that we were giving outstanding service to people until I got other things organised in my life. So it's interesting because when I see and when I've spoken to a lot of people in the industry who are massively high performers, when I've spoken to them, they've always talked about the fact that they had to be massively organised within their business, but also outside their business as well.
Right.
Because that all has an impact. And so you can't write great business being disorganised. So you have to have an ideal week. You have to make sure that you're not running around like a blue-ass fly in between appointments. You have to schedule things outside. You have to schedule downtime, all that type of stuff.
Is your diary used on Outlook or on is it on a computer or is it on a handwritten diary?
Oh no, it's on computer.
On computer.
Yeah, because from day to day, of an evening I check to make sure I know what's coming up, and I can mentally and I guess also emotionally prepare for the following day. But yeah, so I do use a written diary as well.
Right.
Because sometimes I find if there's an appointment for, if I want to call somebody for, in 5 months or whatever, yes, I'll put it in the computer. But when I flip over in my diary, I'll see that that's the one that I need to call.
Right.
But it's mostly computerised.
So your appointments are...
Yep.
Okay. Next question I'm going to ask you is top 3 tips that you can give to real estate agents that want to get better. What are the 3 pieces of advice that have worked for you that you're doing?
There's always somebody out there that's doing better business than you.
Right.
And you can learn from them and then just be dumb enough to implement what they've done.
Right. I like the way you said that. Dumb enough means don't over-analyse it.
Yeah, don't have an ego about it. Like, heard another cracker of a comment years ago, and that was, don't let perfect get in the way of better.
Yeah.
Thought about that, and that's a cracker. You can, I think,
perfect means procrastination for many people, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and I just think that, so the first thing that I would say to them is, for God's sake, if you're in an agency where whoever it is writing good business, pester them until they'll tell you, and you'll find that they'll be generous.
Right.
If you're in an agency where you're working among a bunch of people who aren't necessarily like who you would aspire to be, go outside of the agency and speak to other people and see what they're doing, and they'll be generous with you as well, and then just do it.
Beautiful. Okay, so success leave clues.
Yep, that's the first one.
Follow that. Next one.
Second thing would be, don't think for a split second that it's going to happen overnight. And that's such a cliche, but it doesn't. I mean, I went from 90,000 to minus 20,000 before I started to increase.
In the 8 years, did it go up gradually?
No, not at all. No, basically just double, until I got to a stage. I did, for 2 years in a row, I did roughly the same figures, and once again that was based around my level of organisation or lack thereof, and so I got reorganised again to the next level and then went up again.
Right.
But so many people get into the industry and they think, yep, I'll give it 6 months or I'll give it 12 months. That's just ridiculous. There's no way that you can do anything in real estate in 6 to 12 months. Nobody knows you after 12 months. So if you're learning correctly from all the people in the industry that are doing well, you're working your bum off, and you're telling the truth and you're doing the right thing, give yourself 3 years and see how you go.
Okay. So what you're saying is, start off, it's an undergraduate degree.
Yeah, it's paid training.
3 years. You're enrolling in a 3-year real estate course.
Yep.
And
it's like a degree.
Like a degree. Don't expect big money to come in, but expect a lot of learnings.
Yes, yeah, because the money comes from the learnings. Right. And that's this is the third thing that I would say. From time to time I'd get people who would have a go at me or a chuckle at me for being too script and dialogue orientated.
Right.
And the fascinating thing for me is that at that stage, when I was learning as many scripts and dialogues and things like that as I possibly could, I was still early in the industry, so I was still at a stage where I needed to learn it piece by piece, and you will too if you're new to the industry. You need to learn it letter by letter. But once you learn them enough, then they become internalised, and then you just understand the overall strategy. And so when you're sitting across the table from somebody, you don't need to use a script or a dialogue, because you understand that if you look at any script and dialogue, you break it down, fundamentally what it's about is you're trying to communicate effectively to somebody, a reason to do or not do something.
Yeah. And
provided it resonates with you with integrity, then all it is, it's just like a cricketer learning how to cover drive or whatever else. Initially you'll be clunky and it's not going to come off well and you'll look ugly or whatever, but once you learn it, then you can get to a stage where you're not thinking about it, it becomes natural, and then you can even start to insert some of your own flair into it. And it's fascinating because some of the people that used to rib me for scripts and dialogues, I wrote 3 times their business last year, so there's got to be something in that.
Well, I've got to tell you, I mean, we know the revenue that you're writing, there's evidence there that you're a believer in scripts or dialogues, and I've always said, and people that know me, don't use 1,000 words when 50 will do. And I think that one of the things that Michael says is that when a script and dialogue is internalised and you actually know how to use as a metaphor, you can actually adapt that at any time because you've conceptually learnt the framework of what you're trying to say in a simplistic way. And that to me is not being a phony, fake salesperson. That's actually telling people something that an average salesperson can take 10 minutes to say.
It's like if somebody hits you, we've all been lost for words at some time. Somebody's asked us a question and we kind of know what we want to say, but we've got, learning the scripts and the dialogues. Once again, provided there's an ethics behind it, provided the script or the dialogue that you're learning
is right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Provided you've got that and it's with sincerity, learning the script or the dialogue is just the ability for you to be able to respond in the way that you want to without having to think about the specific words that you need to say.
And hopping in your car and saying, shit, I wish I'd said that when I was there.
Yeah, proper prior preparation prevents poor performance.
All right, Michael, one final question. This is the standard interview question I ask to all my people. If you were starting in real estate 8 years ago, day one, Michael Clarke, meeting Michael Clarke, what piece of advice would you give Michael?
That's a good one.
The reason it's good is there's no standard script or dialogue available.
No bloody script or dialogue on that one. What piece of advice would I give myself? I'll tell you what it is. It is that the person that does the best is very rarely the one that is the most intelligent or the most talented. The person that does the best is the one that works single-mindedly in the same direction, harder than anybody else, with integrity. That's what I'd say.
Okay, what a great way to finish this video. What a great way to finish this video. You don't have to have an IQ of 150, is basically what Michael has said, but you've got to get on task, stay on task, get in line, stay in line, and be focused. Michael, thank you so much for coming in.
Pleasure.
It's a pleasure having you.
Becoming a specialist was the key to really driving my business.
Okay, I think viewers watching this, Marcus, would say, geez, I'm struggling to get listings, and this guy over here, 5-6 years ago, made the decision that he would actually say to a vendor, I don't take that kind of property on, and did it in a nice way, of course. But that must take courage to do that, to be able to let go of stuff that's there.